What's up, guys, and welcome to another edition of Kane's Hub. Yes, you are not seeing my beautiful face today. You are actually seeing a sunset from Kona, Hawaii. I figured I'd change it up on you guys. Lots of going on and trying to balance running Kane's Hub and also running another channel called Heel Hub. While also working 50 hours a week with Starbucks is it's just been a lot. So I apologize, guys. You're not going to see the face today, but we're still going to go over the Hurricanes. Still going to go over the ups and the downs of the last week or so. And but yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. So over the last week, the Hurricanes seemed to beat Buffalo. And then lose in overtime to Chicago, and then beat Ottawa. So let's start kind of go into these games. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look before going into all the trade chatter that has apparently completely taken the Hurricanes by storm. So the win against Buffalo, it sort of kind of seemed like standard operating procedure. It seemed like the Hurricanes sort of were just taking care of business the way they needed to. They look sharp. They look good. They had a couple moments where they I don't say they didn't like lose their way, but there definitely is occasionally a hiccup that we're seeing. But I think that's just coming from having such a young defensive core right now and having so many new players coming in and out of the lineup with all the injuries. With all that being said, I'm not really terribly worried about the 4-1. I was a lot more concerned with the Chicago game. I feel like the Hurricanes sort of looked sluggish the whole entire time. The Hurricanes never looked like they really got to their game the way that we sort of expect them to get to their game. And it's challenging. It's frustrating because, Chicago has a lot of good young players, but you're still expecting to be able to beat them, right? You're still expecting that to be a game that you just circle as a W because it's a team that's inexperienced. Yeah, they've got some talent on it, but they're not nearly as together as the Hurricanes should be. So because at the end of the day, right, there's a really, really good chance, I think, that if we don't end up facing the Avalanche or the Stars in the final, right, this is taking for granted we make it to the final. If it's not Avs or Stars, I can almost guarantee you it will be Ducks or it will be Sharks. And both of those teams are younger, way faster than the Hurricanes, play a way different style of game than the Hurricanes. And right now, the Hurricanes aren't really seeming to play them in that style very well. So I'm really hoping that the Hurricanes can sort of kind of figure out that side of things. And really, it's a lot. It's hard. These players are young. They're fast. I don't think, Jackson Blake may be the closest thing to, players these guys' age, and it's just completely different skill set. You know what I mean? It's night and day difference where, Jackson Blake can sort of kind of do what they're doing, but they're just doing it twice, 3 times, 4 times as fast. So with all that being said, let's jump into the Ottawa game. Ottawa looked like another game that was sort of kind of, what we expected from the Hurricanes. They played tough. Jarvis showed up like he does in these types of games, especially against Canadian teams. Did really well. The team looked really good. Seeing Bussy's reaction to keeping the Hockey Night in Canada towel was I think pretty special. It just sort of kind of lets you know just how not even a year ago he was an AHL goaltender who was being waived, being sent back down. And now he's becoming a household name. It's crazy how all in the course of a year, all this has changed, right, for him. So with Bussy, we can go ahead and hit the talk that it's being rumored that he is very close to an extension. If I had to ballpark it where it should be and where I'm hoping it should be, I'm thinking it should be probably around the ballpark of $4 to $6 million for 3 to 4 years. That is, if you were asking me what the Hurricanes should be paying for him, I think that is a very fair market price for him. This allows us to turn around to Kochenkov, look at Kochenkov and say, hey, we're going to sign you for a very similar deal, and then have goaltending wrapped with a bow on top for under $12 million. That being said, will it all play out that way? I'm not sure. But I do know the fact that locking up Bussy, I think, needs to be one of the top priorities for the Hurricanes. If they're expecting and wanting consistent goaltending, moving forward. The biggest issue with Bussy, and the only thing I'm a little bit nervous about, and Rob Brindamore sort of highlighted this, is that you still don't really know what you're getting with them. We've heard of these goaltenders before getting hot for a season and then going completely invisible the following season. So in making that point, my counterpoint does end up being like, look, if Bussy can stand being with the Hurricanes when we're constantly changing out defensemen, imagine if he actually had a solidified six defensemen that he knew he was getting every single night. You're also getting Keandre Miller, first year in the system, Nystrom being a rookie, Niskanen being a rookie. So we've got a lot of things going against Bussy as far as what he should be seeing, but he's also just playing lights out. So I think at the end of the day, I think that's why I sort of put the $4 to $6 million range as being appropriate, is because at the end of the day, we're sort of getting, if he ends up being a complete bust, a $4 million price tag, or if even a $5 million price tag isn't horrible, because then you just hope that he could sort of be back up for that whole entire time. And then that's why it would end up being extremely important to also sign Kochenkov. I think if I'm hoping that's how the Hurricanes play it. It is how the Hurricanes should play this. It should 100% be a 1A, 1B type of situation. The league is going towards that, towards needing two strong goaltenders that could consistently play. And I think if the Hurricanes are smart, that's sort of the route they're going to take with it. Because if they don't, who do we really have in the system at this point in time? Like Caden Primo, who I've been preaching that they need to pull him up just to see what the kid can do. They still haven't. So at the end of the day, more than likely he walks at the end of the season because he's only on a one-year deal, right? I think that it would behoove the Hurricanes very much so to go through and to play Caden Primo a couple of times. And maybe they're just sort of just waiting to see if the injury bug will end up striking Anderson. But I still think that you want us to get some reps in with Primo just to see what you have with them before the trade deadline. Because if something happens to Bussy and Anderson goes down in the playoffs, all of a sudden we're looking at Caden Primo. You know what I mean? Because I guess that's where my hesitation, my worry comes in, right? Put it to you this way, right? If Bussy goes down tomorrow, not that I want this to happen, but if he were to, Anderson is locked in for the remainder of the season as our starter. That's crazy, right? Not only do I think that it puts the Hurricanes' ability to hit a Stanley Cup in jeopardy, it might even put the Canes' ability to make the playoffs. I could easily see with Anderson in net them losing 7 of 10, 6 of 10. You know what I mean? And the league is the Metro is just too competitive right now for any type of fall off to that extent. And mind you, Anderson has been playing better. He has looked decent some of these last couple of games. But I'm still just very apprehensive about it, very nervous about it. And I don't want for the Hurricanes whole season to be on if Frederik Anderson has to play, what happens? You know what I mean? So I think getting Caden Primo a couple looks, because if Primo ends up not being what we need him to be, I do think that you'd still maybe try to get a rental goaltender, someone who you're just going to have for just the season. Jonathan Quick, honest to God, comes to mind as a perfect rental player, rental goaltender with the New York Rangers, just in case Caden Primo can't go at a high level. But it's like I said, it's a lot of it is there's so many ifs, ands, and question marks around it. But I feel in my gut that going after a goaltender rental for this off season is not the worst idea. Just to have a little bit of insurance, just because we know that Anderson has a horrible history of going down the playoffs, and if he goes down, there goes the season. But anyway, enough about goaltending. I think what we're all been sort of kind of marveling and wondering, marveling, is that even a word? I don't know if that's the right word. Anyway, I think what a lot of us have questions about is these trade rumors when it comes to Niskanen, when it comes to Kakiniemi. I think that the Hurricanes, they're in a tough spot, right? I made a video, I think it was my last video I made, talking about Niskanen and the trade value and the potential there. I want to reiterate that, like, if the Hurricanes move Niskanen, it really should be for a all-star caliber defenseman. And not even like, it might be for Panarin. No. We lock up a young defenseman who can take us the distance. And everyone who thinks that I am wanting Niskanen to be traded, no, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying it is you should always be entertaining offers. You should definitely be entertaining offers if you're using a Russian defenseman who's on the last year of his deal and you do not know what he's going to be asking for. Because let's be honest here, right? With Kaprizov's contract of $17 million, with a lot of these other defensemen making $12, $13, $14 million, are we honest to God going to put Alexander Niskanen in that category? I don't know if we can. I don't know, because mind you, I think he's going to have a big ask, because the Hurricanes, knowing the Hurricanes and how they operate, they're wanting the full length, the 8-year term on it. But if I'm not mistaken, Niskanen is 23, right? So if they lowball him and say, hey, we'll pay you 7.5, which is what they gave Keandre Miller, he's not going to go for that. He's going to want top dollar. He's going to want the $10 to $12 million range. And if he's not getting that, he's going to demand to be moved. And I think that's huge. It's so important right now. The other thing the Hurricanes got to keep in mind is he's a restricted free agent, which means if they dilly-dally too long and we hit July 1st, I would not be surprised if an offer sheet comes in for him. Will not be surprised at all. Because I think that the Hurricanes have sort of kind of put themselves in a position where, like, this might actually happen this way. And the crazy thing is we have the cap to sign him. If I'm not mistaken, it's either this year or next year we go from like $95 million to like $120 million for the cap. So there's more than enough runway to sign this guy. It's just, is the number going to be right? And that's where I question, is it maybe worth the move on him? If you have another guy who is on a 7 or he's got 5 or 6 years left on his deal, and he's already making 14, if he's on $5 or $6 million or 5 or 6 years left on his deal, and he's making like 10-ish, 11-ish, and you know what you're getting with him, I think you definitely roll the dice on that type of deal. But signing Niskanen only with one real year played because they burned a year last year, I don't know. I get a little bit nervous about that. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching the sunset with me. Let me know what you guys think. Do we like this style of video? Do we appreciate maybe something a little bit more nature-based than seeing my beautiful face? But anyway, guys, talk to you later. Enjoy the rest of the sunset.